So 20 years ago, I met a guy at a toy show. And 15 years ago, that guy decided to change the world of action figures forever by introducing the first ever scanned action figures. And now, 15 years later, he's back in the wrestling figure business, and he has again set the world of wrestling figures on its ear. He is, of course, the man behind the AEW Unrivaled and soon to be Unmatched lines. And I am here with him for my interview segment, which I'm calling Better Things to Do, because the people that I interview usually have better things to do, but they take time to talk to me anyway. So his name is Jeremy Padawer. He's been on this show before, and I'm so thrilled to see him again because he's the busiest man in action figures right now. So Jeremy, welcome to Geeking Out About.
Thank you very much. It's so good to see you. Gosh, it's been...
Was that a flowery enough introduction?
Listen, you could have kept going.
I have more superlatives.
What can I say? You know what?
I never run out of good things to say about you.
We really have had a crazy year. I mean, we're the company behind Pokemon, Roblox, Fortnite, Halo, but also brands like Cocomelon in preschool and brands like Squishmallows and Plush. And it's there's
a lot of fingers you guys have there's a lot of pies you guys have your fingers in.
We have a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. And the good news is a lot of the pies that we've selected to participate in have been delicious. And I will tell you, that's not the way things often work. I mean, life is usually a mixed bag. And sometimes, honestly, everything that you tried doesn't work. I've been down both roads. I much prefer it when everything's working.
Well, like with Halo and Roblox and Fortnite and Pokemon, you guys have about like 65% of the video game action figure aisle.
Right now, yeah. No, I think we did a really good job early on in differentiating ourselves and focusing on things like preschool and things like focusing on things like social media brands and gaming brands. And but at the end of the day, when you're a smaller company and you're trying to compete, it's really not the most strategically sound thing to try to compete in brands that everyone else are trying to compete for. So if we were going in the earliest years against Mattel and Hasbro for the next big Disney property, I would say that that's not the best move. So we zigged when they zagged, in other words.
I think it's safe to say you guys aren't a smaller company anymore.
No, it's crazy to say that, but it's true.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So it was a year ago that AEW first started showing up. Can you believe it's been a year of this line already?
I can and I can't. No, it's amazing that it's been a year, but in the meantime, this is a brand that we care so much about. And when you care so much about something, you spend a lot of time thinking about it. And I feel like, because we have such a meaningfully scaled business, I tend to put a disproportional amount of time into thinking about AEW just because I love the category and I love the genre so much. So, it feels, on one hand, it's amazing that a year has passed. On the other hand, it's amazing that 4 years haven't passed. I guess that's
There are scores of us who remember 15 to 20 years ago, when you were at the height of the WWE license, and what a wild ride that was with you year after year at Toy Fair. And I know I personally have been talking to people who remember the Jax line very fondly, and I have been saying to them, the feeling I get is the same feeling I got all those years ago, and just jump in now and buckle up, because if history is any indication, this is going to be a wild ride. And I personally am thrilled to be on this ride with you again.
Oh, thank you.
All these years later.
You've been so supportive over the years, and it's just really a pleasure to to have the conversations with you and to have the opportunity to connect. And you're a historian at this point. I mean,
Well, like,
you've been around a lot of different moments, and you really have a tremendous amount of insight as a result.
like literally, like the Nerds in a Bar guys and I walked out of Toy Fair the 2 years ago when you had the AEW unveiling, and we literally looked at each other and we all said the same thing. Here we go again.
Oh man, I really like those guys. We had a great time that night going to Factors. No, not Factors.
Cats.
To which one?
Cats
Deli. Oh my god, I love that place.
Yeah, we were so bummed to not be able to do that again this year.
I know,
but hopefully next year.
I sure hope so. I mean, it looks favorable, but
it does. Javits seems to be very excited about welcoming everybody to their bigger convention center. So.
Yeah, I think so. Look, the world is still in a very delicate spot. I think that the booster shots will come out for people that are vaccinated. Yep. Obviously, some people don't think vaccination is the right thing for them. And while I can't stand in their shoes, it certainly for me it was the right thing. And I just
absolutely.
I just hope that we can. I hope we can get through this and without too many more loss of lives. And COVID, what a life-changing scenario that was for everyone.
Yeah, and so it's still affecting supply chain significantly.
Yeah, in an interesting kind of way. I mean, what you would think is that COVID came in and disrupted supply chain because there was an issue with the infrastructure as a result of COVID. But what has really occurred is that whatever the world's economy is doing, it hasn't crushed, it hasn't collapsed, and demand for collectible items and demand for items in the toy and collectible space has only increased significantly.
Yeah.
And so as a result, material acquisition and shipping and all of those other things have been impacted, but not in the way that you would expect. Not in the way that you would say, well, it's opposite. The demand is tremendous. So it's really fascinating. That demand has driven a lot of stockouts, and it's been hard to replenish due to not enough vessels to carry product across the ocean. There's just not enough containers. And look, all the major retailers are seeing it across many different categories. And frankly speaking, it's not just toys and collectibles. Someone was telling me the other day that they were buying a new washing machine and that there was a 5-month wait to get a washing machine. And I was like, 5-month wait. And it's because of the availability of shipping containers.
Yeah.
For our situation, we actually had a hot water heater go out. And they said it could be 8 months. Well, turns out that they luckily had one that they were able to find locally that was used, that had literally been used for a year or two.
Oh my God.
Because otherwise we'd be waiting for that, for many, many, many months. So,
oh my God.
But the other thing that occurs when you have such a tremendous amount of demand and is that materials get more expensive to acquire. And so anyways, the whole thing is very fascinating. It just drives, it can drive pricing. It can certainly drive a lot of headaches in terms of getting product at retail.
Yeah. Obviously we talked about this when the AEW line started, because you had planned for a massive launch at Walmart, and it didn't. The figures didn't launch on the date that, very famously on the date that you specified that they were going to launch.
Yeah,
and
that was fun.
To your credit, you completely came right out and owned that immediately. like, to your credit, because I don't know, many other execs that wouldn't have just chalked that up to, the pandemic and left it at that. You actually came out and you were like, my bad, I said this date, and, I didn't know that, there were going to be these complications, but I quoted this date, so that's on me. And I apologize for that. And I thought that was one of the most amazing, genuine things I had ever heard anybody do in the industry.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, we, when we set those dates, there was not a global pandemic in place. When we set those dates, there was an expectation that things were going to be status quo. And then, honestly, I didn't react fast enough to what the real scenarios were. I was so concerned about making sure people kept their jobs and so concerned about everything else that the last thing that I remembered was I need to go back and remind people that this date might not be 100% spot on anymore. But listen, when we make errors, the best thing to do is to own up to it and communicate to people, especially when you're dealing with collectors who are super passionate about a category, because what's the alternative? It's not like you can, like, what are you going to do? You're not going to fib. I mean, if you fib, it takes about 2 seconds for people to figure you out. And then what happens the next time you're asking for forgiveness? Like, no one trusts you. So
right. There's no credibility at that point.
No credibility. It's almost like being in any relationship, you have to earn trust, and then, and then you have to keep it.
So I have to say, though, despite the sort of snafus with shipping and everything, remarkably, in the 12 months since Unrivaled launched, you've managed to put out 7 waves of figures.
Yeah.
AEW Unrivaled 1 through 6 and 1B.
Yeah, 1B. And
1B.
Yes.
So that's another thing. So this is another thing that, another of many things that sets you apart from other figure executives. I'm trying to imagine another scenario where, like, the head of boys brands for like Mattel or Hasbro comes out and goes, that set of Marvel Legends figures didn't quite come out the way we wanted, so we're going to redo them. I have never heard of this before in toys, period.
Well,
where someone's like, we weren't happy, so we're going to do them again.
Well, I think here was the thing. Whenever we're creating action figures, in my opinion, they're not just action figures, but they're also collectibles.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want to just do a running change and have it all be part of the same thing. It was important to basically say, okay, look, we've run that figure. We're gonna run it again when we have the opportunity, when we actually have some open space in the line. And it was important to get the color palette more correct. And frankly speaking, I think it was also a good lesson for all of us in terms of the way we're, handling our deco and handling the figure development. But no, I appreciate that. That was another example of identifying something that we didn't think was ideal and then managing it. But that's always the objective.
I interviewed Magic a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about 1 versus 1B, and he said, obviously 1B is better and it's more correct, but he said he totally had like a soft spot for 1, because on the one hand they were the first ever AEW figures, and on the other hand he said, they look sort of anime-ish, and there's a sort of very quaint charm about them because of the way they look. But he said obviously 1B is much, much better and closer to what they were striving for. But yes. I like that there's a soft spot in people's hearts for the first ones.
Absolutely.
And and I like them too. Like obviously the 1B1s are closer to what they should be, but like I have a super soft spot for the original 6 because they were the first ever AEW figures I was able to buy, and they were the first wrestling figures you had your hands in 15 years.
No, it's funny. I have to tell you, look, I will tell you that from 2002 to 2010, WWE was the wrestling action figure that I was involved with.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always involved with the action figure business. I mean, through Pokemon and all the other major brands that I manage. And then 2000. So yeah, it was definitely 10 years away from traditional wrestling action figures.
That's crazy.
Too long. And I'm glad we're back in the thick of it.
I remember the first year that you were at Toy Fair as Wicked Cool. The email that got sent out was literally, would you like to see a 20-inch John Cena figure?
Yeah.
And I was like, who would make a 20-inch John Cena figure? So
31 inches.
Oh, 31. That's right.
Yes.
out of complete curiosity, I was like, I have to go and see this. And then I remember walking up to the booth and seeing you pass the desk, and we hadn't seen each other in quite a few years because you had sort of stepped away for a bit, and then I saw you and I was like, now it all makes sense. I was like,
yeah, no.
Who else would make a 31-inch John Cena?
That's a good point. So the truth is that I was only really away from wrestling for a couple years, right? So because we did do the 31-inch Cena, and we did do like a lot of the WWE sort of secondary stuff in my new company. But man, when AEW came around, it was too good. It was too important to do it right and to get it right.
So how long did it take you to decide that AEW really had something going for it and it was going to be like a big thing? Because I don't think anybody after that initial pay-per-view that sort of spawned AEW knew quite what was going to happen.
Yeah. I had a really good feeling for it. And essentially, it had been 20 years since you had 2 billionaires with the power that a billionaire has. And what I was looking for in a big wrestling brand was I wanted it to be a scenario where you had extreme capital that could be invested. And I knew when I heard that Tony Khan was starting up a wrestling company, I knew that there was a lot of capital available, or at least that there could be. There was a potential of that. And then I wanted to see that there was great talent associated with the brand. And of course, Jericho and Moxley and the Young Bucks and some other people were announced. I'm like, wow. So at around that time, really before the talent was announced, I had gone out of my way to try to meet with the key players at AEW. And I had a lot of little birdies helping me along the way. And I'm very thankful for those birdies. And, they put me in touch and we had some good communication and we signed it without fully understanding what the broadcast looked like. But that broadcast was, really fantastic, when it was announced. So the 4 fundamental things was, is there enough capital? What does the talent look like? What does the broadcast look like? And then the last thing that comes is creative. You don't see the creative until all of those other things are lined up. And at the time that I saw the creative, I was like, yeah, this is real. This is going to be great. And here we are, you know, a couple of years later, and you can see the ratings are great. Pay-per-view buys are great.
Yep.
The storyline is terrific. It's just very enjoyable. And I think it's really helped lift wrestling to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, I think the company has definitely turned the corner towards major player status now.
Oh, for sure.
So one of the things that I love about this line, and I'm sure you have a love-hate relationship with this, is how invested the talents are in their figures and in when they're getting their figures.
Oh yeah.
You very famously had the Twitter war of the world with Britt Baker
Yes.
over her figure.
Yes.
But in the end, everything worked out because she's very pleased with her figure, and you made it.
And the first of many, I should say.
And you know, I remember before you announced her figure, Nyla Rose was very vocal about wanting a figure. But again, her design looks amazing. And it just seems like a lot of these people are fully appreciative of what kind of status symbol it is for a wrestler to have this little plastic representation of them.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
And you know, Magic and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. A lot of these people worked in smaller independent promotions before coming to AEW, so there was never a chance for them to have an action figure. And like now they're getting their figures, and like the reaction is just amazing. Like obviously, you would think it's old hat for Cody, because Cody had so many figures under the WWE banner, but like it's still like the little kid in him every time he sees one of his figures. Like he's always on Twitter tweeting about how amazing it is to have another figure. And you know, the same with like you know, some of the other, like, you know, Dustin's had tons of figures of him over the years because of the Goldust character, but like the ones that are coming out now, like he still thinks they're like, the reaction you still get from the people is amazing.
Well, we really love and value the whole process of making action figures that are associated with wrestling. And honestly, it's one of the most enjoyable things that I do. I love interacting with the talent. I love interacting with the consumers and fans and collectors. And it's just a super passion oriented area of business to be in. And, you know, I think that the talent, and I think the team at AEW really understands that what we bring to the table is hard to recreate, because, you know, there's toy companies, but how do you get that level of passion? Like, how do you get that level of engagement and excitement? It's just hard to get there.
And like the amazing thing about the AEW fan base is like they want everybody. Like I've seen so many people, like you guys finally announced the first sort of non-wrestler figure in the Aubrey Edwards figure that comes with the new Double or Nothing ring that's going to come out from ringside.
Yeah.
And like not only did Aubrey go bananas over that figure when you showed it to her, but like the comments on Twitter were just amazing. Like, oh my God, finally an Aubrey Edwards figure. It's so cool. Like people are not just clamoring for like superstars, but they're clamoring for like Justin Roberts and Tony Schiavone and another JR and Excalibur. And like for those guys, like you know, JR obviously is prominent because he mentioned on his Twitter asking you when the broadcasters were going to get their figures. Like Excalibur's never had a figure before. And Tony Schiavone, amazingly enough, throughout the entire WCW line that Toy Biz did, they did like everybody under the sun, but no Tony Schiavone figure.
Wow.
Which is just a massive like almost a hole in the wrestling action figure pantheon.
Well, that when we do the Tony Schiavone figure, that'll be a true honor to celebrate this guy who's had such a legendary and storied career in wrestling. Plus, he's just a really nice person. There's a reason why, you see the talent within the AEW organization kind of like take a liking to him. He's just a likable guy. And he's, for someone that has been around so much and so long, there's no ego. There's no ego at all.
And even Justin Roberts, amazingly enough, in all the years Justin Roberts was in WWE, no WWE figure. Just amazing.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, it's it's kind of rare to celebrate the non-participants. I mean, sometimes the managers get celebrated, but we want to go deeper than that. And like we said, we'll figure out ways to do that.
Yeah. So this, we've talked about this before. The challenge in doing figures like that, obviously, is that they're part of the broadcast. They're personalities in the organization, but at the end of the day, they're not wrestlers.
Right.
So the challenge is, like, how do you put a figure like that? Like, how do you justify putting a figure like that in an assortment when it means you have to take out a wrestler?
Well, because there's other ways to do it. You can do it as an exclusive. You can do it as a 2-pack that is being sold otherwise. And I think a lot of the talent that wouldn't necessarily fall into a traditional assortment will be celebrated, in the same style packaging or similar. And I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, like I can't wait to see what those figures look like. I'm very excited for Schiavone, and Jim Ross is a personal hero of mine. So, like,
listen, good old JR is adamant, and he should be. He deserves another action figure, and we're definitely down the path for sure.
Did you see the? I made a comment on JR's Twitter post where I said, that he shouldn't worry, that he was responsible for one of the best, that you were responsible for one of the best JR action figures of all time, and so he was in very, very good hands.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. No, I mean, look, I think sometimes you definitely have to remind yourself, like, that it takes a while to roll out an action figure line when you have 100 talent, and some talent are more mainstream, top of the card type talent, and some talent are more up and coming, and you really have to know the way to balance that out in order to get deep into the roster.
So one of the other things you've done, starting with the second AEW line, Unmatched, which is about to start shipping to stores, is you have created what I believe is the most ambitious shipping schedule in the history of action figures.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
So you told me that realistically, every 6 weeks, a new set of 6 figures will come out.
Yes.
And you are prepared and on target to, as far as you know right now, meet that deadline.
Yes.
That is extraordinary.
I told you we're not messing around.
Dude, like I said, wild ride. Buckle up. Here we go.
No, this is the right way to manage this brand. The right way to manage it is to constantly drive and push newness on shelf. But it doesn't come without a few bruises along the way. That's for sure.
Was it hard to sell a second line to major retailers like Walmart and Target?
It was, but we had earned it.
Boy, did you ever!
I mean, it would have been impossible to do it out of the gates.
Yeah, yeah.
Once we sort of proved our space, it became very possible.
Now, I also want to talk about our good friend Jonathan at Ringside Collectibles. How
Amazingly
much
supportive.
Yeah, how much has the support of Ringside and the willingness of Ringside to take a shot on so many exclusives, because you've actually had 5, I believe it's 5 Ringside exclusives since the launch of the line, which is an amazing amount for them to take on. So talk a little bit about what it's meant for Ringside to be so behind this line.
Look, Ringside is the epicenter of the collector universe in the wrestling business. And for me, it's a no-brainer. I've been working with them for almost 20 years, and I've seen them grow and come along in a very serious manner. I've known Jonathan since he was a kid, literally, and I will support them and help drive the collector business absolutely, because I think if you support the collectors where they are, I think then it does wonders for you everywhere else. So if you don't, then people tend to lose interest over the course of time.
Yeah, I can't say enough about how nice Jonathan is. He's such a great guy, and
he's a great guy.
If you want, for those of
Trevor,
you listening to
the whole group, Trevor and all those guys, really great.
I always forget the rest of their names. Like I always try to look at their badges every time we go to a show, because I always feel so bad. And I try to do it surreptitiously, so I'm not going up to them going, "Hi, Trevor."
No, next time that we're there together, I'll whisper him in your ear. I'll try to do it where no one can notice.
Thank you. Yeah, for those of you who are listening to this or watching this on YouTube, if you want the latest AEW figures as fast as you can possibly get them, pre-order them from Ringside. They ship them super fast. Literally, like as soon as they hit their warehouse, they're in the box and out the door to you. They are great. I am waiting on my Unmatched Series 1 right now. So what can you tease anything about like what the next year might be holding besides figures?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you can really expect to see us take more risks outside of the traditional 6-7 inch action figure. We've talked about dropping in some LJNs here and there, talking about maybe doing some retro type style figures, talking about some 2-packs, and a lot of this you're going to find is not going to be at mass. A lot of it will, but you only have so much space at mass, right? And you don't want to over skew because if you do, and something is unproductive, sometimes you can really get caught up in a totally unproductive line, even when only one SKU is unproductive, and then you get then sort of get the wrong perspective as to what you're bringing to the table. And I'm sure you've seen that. You've got a lot of retail experience.
So I have to ask, how cool was it for you when you decided to do the LJNs, to go to LJN and say, we want to do this? Can we have the rights from you to do this?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, it certainly wasn't the same company that owned it back in the day. It was someone that picked up the trademark. But the thing that was cool to me is that I worked with Jack Friedman, who was the J in LJN. I worked with him for many years, and he then became the J in Jax, Jack Friedman. He was the CEO for a long time, and we used to talk about wrestling all the time and about his whole adventure in that space. And he had an amazing career, and I felt like it was sort of passing the torch down from him to me to kind of carry the next generation. And that's what I did at Jax, and now and then at Wicked Cool Toys, and now at Jazwares. But good times, man. It was just wild to bring back sort of in Jack's memory the LJN figure.
Which again, that was one of the things. Like as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, of course Jeremy went and licensed LJN. Why not?
Why not, man? Why not?
I was like, I don't know how I didn't see this coming sooner.
Well, maybe we'll have some other surprises soon.
And then you did the wrestling buddies too.
Yes.
And I remember texting you and saying, you couldn't wait to bring these back, could you?
No, I couldn't. Absolutely could not wait.
I think we talked about those at Toy Fair. Yeah, wrestling buddies.
Yes.
And you were talking about that as one of the things that you were looking to do with AEW. They look hilarious, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
The Luchasaurus one in particular.
I love that.
Those look so funny.
Yeah, no, look, they're meant to be funny and they're meant to be, but also, you know what? They're also sort of in line with the historical buddies, and I'm thrilled that we had the opportunity to bring those back.
I mean, you added quite a bit of interactivity from previous versions. Like you can actually have like a whole match with them now, where you can count it, where you can have them counted out and everything. Like I was thoroughly amazed to read that.
Thank you.
So who I'm not gonna ask you for your absolute single favorite, because it's like naming your favorite child, and there's like 70 of them to choose from in this line. So
well, I think Ortiz and Santana are awesome. I love the combination of their initial figures. I really thought that we celebrated them and their culture. And I feel like they felt really satisfied with that. And, it's very important, especially in 2021, to realize that people and their background and their culture are super important, and something that, there's a fine line between embracing it and getting it wrong. And I feel like we definitely got it right in that regard. I knew when they felt happy about it, I was happy about it.
And I like the second one, the second versions of them that are coming too, because it's not like you just sort of swap the bodies and kept the heads the same. Like they have different heads and different facial expressions. Their hair is different. So it's again getting like a new version of those characters.
Yeah, so far we have not tried to be very tooling efficient, as they say. We're really being we're really trying to give as much as we can to the line.
That's because it's boring, Jeremy.
I know, but you know what? It's very
cost efficient, but it's very boring.
But no, I mean, look, there'll be some of that, of course, over the course of time. But also, I have to say that we haven't really gone down that path very much at all. It's always been new product and new figures and really driving it.
So obviously, one of the early criticisms of the line was the lack of representation for female figures. But now, in every assortment that you've announced, there is a female figure. Yeah. Do you think the line has finally struck the proper balance of the representation of the women's division?
I mean, I think so. When you look at the amount of matches on any episodic television in terms of the percentage of total matches that are women versus men, I think that we're kind of getting to a happy medium in terms of celebrating the women's division. Of course, I'd like to do more, and I think there are ways that we can do more and really get deeper. But I also want to make sure that it's just a big balance. And but the key there is, are we celebrating the women's division in AEW? The answer is yes. And are we doing it in a way that sort of reflects the percentage that AEW is doing it? And I think right now I would say that the answer is yes to both.
Yeah, I think it's very impressive. Like I remember looking at the lineups that you guys had announced at the Double or Nothing Fan Fest, and thinking to myself, well, that answers the women's question.
Yeah, and again, there's other ways too that we can really celebrate and drive women's figures, and
And
we will definitely be doing that. Look, there's no doubt. I think that when you look at the state of women's wrestling in 2021, it very much reminds me of what's happening in UFC, where women are headlining, and they are the drivers of the greatest ratings, and they are the drivers of some of the more epic moments. And it doesn't happen without exceptionally talented people that are taking the helm and doing it. And I really believe that women in wrestling today, it's not women wrestlers, it's wrestlers who happen to be female. Essentially, it's like it's hard to differentiating on gender nowadays when there's not really a differentiation in the equality. I think historically there was some differentiators that you would see, and it was almost like a gimmick. But now, again, what's going on in boxing and taekwondo and MMA, I think it's great. I think it's really light years beyond where we used to be.
And what I love about it is, like, some people, will just stick a women's figure in an assortment just to get a women's figure in. But you guys have done it so that it fits in the theme of the wave. So, like, Chris Statlander comes in the best friends wave. So she comes in the same wave as Orange and Trent and Chuck. And, Ty Conti comes in the Dark Order wave. And it's all very, very much thought out as to, how the women are going to come out. Nyla Rose seems to come in a wave with other very hard-hitting superstars.
100%. Absolutely.
So I think that it's great that it wasn't just, people started complaining that there weren't enough women in the line, and they were like, oh, we'll just throw one in here, one in there, one in there.
Exactly.
They sat down and went, okay, so we're going to do the whole best friends. So we'll put Chris Statlander in there. And, we're going to do this wave with FTR and Lance Archer. So we'll put Nyla Rose in that wave. And we're going to do the Dark Order, obviously. And so Ty Conti should be in that wave.
Right.
Also, I have to ask, is there any thought or consideration to changing the packaging to purple for the Dark Order wave?
We'll see.
People have mentioned that would be cool.
You will see. Listen, I want you to know that we are very clever about the way we go about doing.
I know you are very clever.
So, and I've been very happy with the way our packaging team.
You built the real scale elimination chamber. I know exactly how clever you are.
Oh yes. Remember that?
I remember going year by year to Toy Fair and just looking at you and going, I can't believe they let you build that. Right. And you telling me not only did they let me build it, but I'm going to sell it.
Absolutely.
So I know exactly what you are capable of. And that is why every time you put up a thing that says, do you want to see figure reveals? I'm like, God, yes.
Absolutely. No, look, when you're doing something out of passion, it sort of changes a lot of things, right? Like, you tend to do things that are not necessarily as rational as you would if it was just a business decision. So doing things like a real scale elimination chamber or those types of things, you do those because you're really kind of get and embrace the brand.
Yeah. So I have to ask you about this because it's obviously been a massive elephant in the room for you guys over the last few months. What's your personal feeling about leaks?
Oh, I hate them.
I kind of figured.
Yeah. So I'll give you some insight. So, it used to be before social media, there was a certain limitation to the amount of access that people had to photography, and a much better system of controls. Social media has definitely unleashed that a bit, and I hate attacking people, especially people that are trying to throw a few bucks together to get a photo for a
right.
But I'm not against it. I don't like it, but I'll do it. I guess what I'm saying is that I know that soon enough I'm going to have to address this by making examples, and it's my least favorite thing.
Right, like Magic was. I talked to Magic about it too, because one of the series had literally like leaked the 2 days before I talked to him, and and
it's a risk.
We were talking about it, and he does, he obviously, just like you, he obviously does not begrudge the factory worker who's making like peanuts, who is just trying to help provide for his family, and is being offered a ridiculous sum of money for this photo, but at the same time, Magic doesn't like them either.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, when you steal someone's intellectual property, whether it be physically or digitally, in the year 2021, there's a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
It's still theft. And what people have to understand is theft now doesn't mean that you have to carry a physical good. Theft could be digital good, especially in the world of NFTs and all of the things that we live in. So it's dangerous, man. It's just, I can't tell people for sure that if you share an asset that's not shared, that you're not violating someone else's intellectual property. And I don't know exactly when or how that will manifest. I will say that I never, ever like it going to that space. I'm trying to communicate to the source that, that we don't want to get there, but ultimately sometimes you have to go there.
Yeah, that's it. It's always so unfortunate because obviously it's also, everybody worked so hard on these figures, and they have all been prepared for their sort of big day in the sun when they're officially revealed and they're ready to go, and then someone goes and stomps on that by leaking a picture, and usually it's a blurry picture, and it causes all sorts of vitriol on the internet, where people are like, oh, that face looks terrible. And it's like,
it never looks right. It's always posed weird. It's often preliminary, where the deco is not right, or the way the face is. I mean, like, it never communicates something that the licensor, the human who is the actual wrestler themselves, or the manufacturer who created no one is represented correctly under those circumstances, and it leaves whoever's sharing that open to a bunch of individuals who could go after it. But again, I'm trying to resolve it. I'm trying to get past it. I'm trying to do it in a way that never makes someone impacted. I mean, I'll take every precaution before I go that route, but it's getting closer.
And I have to say the most amazing thing, again, this is something that you do that I don't know how many other people do. You had the reveals of Unmatched One, the final photographs for Unmatched One, and then obviously you were unhappy with it, and obviously, like you said, you weren't unhappy with the photographer. You were just unhappy with the way the photos came out on the Britt Baker figure.
Yeah, I did not like the approved photos. And that, what it really came down to was, everything that you see is a team effort. Anybody that feels like, they have ownership. It's a good thing that people have ownership, but everything is a result of a team. So when I call something out, whether it's sculpt or photography or packaging or anything, I'm not calling out a person. I'm calling out the entire team. and I'm saying, hey, that's something that we're going to do differently or better next time. So there should never be an individual's feelings who are hurt. And if there is, I would say like, hey, you're part of a team. It's weird.
So you took the extraordinary step of actually rephotographing the figures in office, actual figures, like not like the any of the model, like you have the actual figures there, the final figures. You photographed them and put those pictures up after the reveal. And I thought that, again, because it was you, I didn't think it was extraordinary because I know how extra mile you go.
Well, it communicated better, right? Like you could get a better sense of that particular figure.
Well, and a lot of people had talked about the face on the figure after the approved photographs were shown. And then after you posted those photographs, there were a lot of people and, oh, never mind.
Well, whenever you do a photograph, you have so many people involved with it, from choosing the right preliminary figure to go with, to actually taking the photography, to giving directions on the types of photography to take, to the approval process at the licensing side. Like, so many people are involved with that whole process that I just want to make sure that the person who was the photographer specifically is a very talented person. I really like that person a lot. So as do I like everybody on the team. But to me, because I have 700 people at this organization, so I never think of anything in terms of an individual, really. It's not that I don't see individual contributions, but it's a team effort. This is a team sport.
Now you also, so finally I have to ask about this. You, the first few series of Unrivaled, they all had chase figures, and the chase amounts were small. Yes. and recently you raised them.
Yes.
So the question I have is the feedback you're getting that the amount that you raise them to is more, I guess, acceptable to the fan community. Have you heard that people are happier with the new amount, or are you still hearing a lot of frustration from people?
Yeah, I mean, I personally liked smaller volume of chase, but there, and we'll occasionally do smaller volume chase, but I just wanted to show people that I was listening. We wanted to show people that we were listening.
Right.
And if you want to show people that you're listening, you change your strategy, even if it's for a brief moment. And I would just tell you, expect that you'll see 500, 1,000 again at some point, but occasionally we'll drop that in, maybe even something much more rare than that.
For the record, I have not gotten a single chase in any of the series that I have gotten so far.
Just sorry, have you seen any in store?
I have heard people finding them in store. I have not seen them myself.
I see pictures all the time. You know what I think it is? It's just the technology that exists today with the apps and everything else and the systems that people can communicate. It's like, it's nearly impossible to police it.
Well, obviously there's nothing that differentiates a chase from the original figure. Now, it's not like the original figure's barcode ends in 0 and the chase's ends in 1 or something like that.
Right.
It's indistinguishable. So it literally is blind dumb luck, and I just don't have any.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, you do, because look, we're friends, and I feel lucky that you're my friend.
Well, I said to Jonathan, I emailed Jonathan. I was like, I've gotten 6 series of figures from you, and I can't get a single chase. Can you help me out?
What did he say?
He hasn't written back yet.
Oh no. Well, he'll see this, I'm guessing.
No, he's I've seen a lot of people getting them from ringside, so I'm sure eventually at some point I'll end up with them. I'm mentioned it to Veronique. I was like, if you know, if in the boxes of figures you guys get to send out as samples, you ever see a chase, could you send it to me, please? And she said she would try, and that's all I can ask. But it's you know, it's a fantastic line, and like I said, it feels like it felt all those years ago, and that's the biggest compliment I can give you, because those were some of the most amazing days of my life, and like those years, I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. Being on that ride with you at Jack's was amazing. It was such an amazing time in my life, and you know, I was lucky enough to go on that ride once in my life, and now I have a chance to go on it again, and I cannot thank you enough for that. Like, and I can't stress enough to everybody that's watching or listening to this. Those days were like the pinnacle of pro wrestling action figures, and to be there again, to be on that kind of precipice again, is an extraordinary achievement for anybody who makes action figures, because it's the kind of lightning in a bottle that you usually don't get to catch twice. But it's happened here, and it's happened because of Jeremy, and it could only have happened because of Jeremy.
Sport. Listen, it's a team sport. Like I said, look, my contributions are definitely there, but man, it's too many things to manage and drive to take that much credit. Like I'm really happy that it's all come together like this, and it just so happens to be that I absolutely love wrestling and have always, you know, really embraced it. I will say that you are right. Like like classic superstars and ruthless aggression, all that stuff. Like, listen, I've been around a long time, and I'm glad that I made those contributions. I'm glad
I wish I could put everybody watching or listening to this in a time machine and go back and show everybody just what happened, because you did so much stuff back then that wasn't just like unheard of. Like, it was like there were people who wouldn't have even, like, most executives wouldn't have even thought to take half of the chances that you took back then.
Thank you.
Like the real scale could have, like the big real scale play sets could have blown up in your face. Yes. I mean, they were pricey for the time.
Yes.
And and I remember talking to you about how hard it was to get retailers to bite at them, because it was a big risk.
You had to definitely graduate to that point. It was nothing that was going to happen right off the bat. That's for sure.
I mean, even scanning, like, you know, I know that you minimize when people say this, but honest to God, like, you were the first person to scan people for action figures. You changed the entire action figure industry. Like, not just wrestling figures. Like, you changed movie figures, you changed television figures, you changed all of that for everybody forever.
Thank you. And I'm looking for my plaque. I want that. I'm just kidding. No, look, look, for me.
When I see you in February, I'll have one for you.
No, don't give me a plaque. It feels really good. I'm proud of my contributions to this world in the figural business, and I'm proud that I've done it for a very, very long time. And you know, at the end of the day, we have a incredible team of people that bring it to life, and you know, I'm known for it, but you know, I try to make sure that the people that work on it have an opportunity to have a platform as well and communicate their contributions, their tremendous contributions.
I mean, I know you're so busy lately, but do you ever find the time to like sit back and think to yourself all the things that had to fall into place for you to be at the point that you are now, like all the
Yeah.
stuff that happened at Jax and all the stuff that happened when you left Jax and started Wicked Cool, and Wicked Cool picked up the notice of Jazwares, and then you got folded into Jazwares, and then you got AEW. And so, like, you know, all these years from where it began, you come all the way back around again. And just the amount of stuff that had to happen is amazing.
No, I feel very fortunate. I definitely am soaking it in. I realize that, you know, I've had a really good run. I think that, you know, it's almost like being a owner of a company or a top, you know, high level executive in a toy organization that's very trend oriented is very much like being the coach of a football team. And you know that the average lifespan of a football coach is like 3 years. So to have done this for over 20 really means that things worked out. And I'm very thankful to have had this opportunity. So can I go another 10 or 20? I don't know. I'm not trying to break any records.
Yes,
I'm not
you
trying
can.
to break any records. I don't, you know, but what I can do is I can certainly try to influence other people to do a great job and excite the fans of the wrestling and the figure community, and hopefully deliver product that they feel proud of. So that's really a lot of the focus.
It will be a very sad day when you hang it up.
Yeah, man.
We will all be wearing black armbands. It will be a very, very sad day.
Yeah, well, the day that happens is the day that I'm gonna go get the most enormous Broken Skull IPA and just
dude, Austin will probably deliver it to you in person.
Exactly. I made enough of his figures too, so but
yeah, and I have to say, like, on the subject of gratitude, like, this will be my 21st toy fair when we finally see each other again in February. Cross my fingers and toes and everything else. And it's all because of you, and for some people it's all your fault. Literally, I knew nobody in the toy industry 21 years ago, and Jeremy was the first guy that let me in the door of a toy fair briefing, and I have been doing this ever since, and I have loved every minute of it. And so, like I said before, the chance to be on that ride again with you after all these years is something I cannot thank you enough for, because I have never forgotten any of those days, and I am thrilled to have more of them.
Well, it's a mutual feeling. I can tell you that much. It's absolutely mutual.
I just can't wait to see you in person. I really hate these video calls. I'm so done with video calls. Like, I just want to be back to in-person toy events so badly.
I know it is. It's been a long run, and I imagine you guys are all wearing masks at work again, I'm guessing.
No, so actually, I'm in Connecticut, and we're one of the top 3 states for vaccination percentage. So our numbers here are pretty good, actually.
Well, that's great. So you guys are not wearing masks right now?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
that's super nice. Excited about that.
That feels like normalcy. We're all wearing masks. We're all wearing masks and going.
I know. I keep reading the news about California, and I keep saying prayers for you guys.
Oh, thanks, man. No, I will be fine. I mean, but you know, at the end of the day, obviously it takes a lot of people to do their part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, Rob, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast.
Jeremy Padawer is the co-president of Jazwares, and he has his fingers in so many different lines: Pokemon, Halo, Micro Machines, Roblox, Fortnite, and of course AEW, which is the one I care most
about. Listen, Rob, when we sold Wicked Cool Toys, I stayed on as a partner, and I'm thrilled that I did. It was a really good decision. It's a great company, and there's a lot of great people. We have an amazing leadership team that I'm a part of. So and it gives us the opportunity to put out great action figures, including amazing wrestling figures. So good times.
Yeah, all the best to you. And
thank you. And
I can't wait for the Unmatched, Unrivaled back and forth to start. So looking forward to those. I have every 6 weeks marked off on my calendar.
Oh, man. That's great. All right, brother. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you. You too, man. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you. February 18th. Same. So far away, but I can't wait.
See you soon, my friend.
Yep. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.